The nuclear question is increasingly being asked, I guess, and it's not necessarily being answered at this time in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But as time goes forward and as the takeover of Ukraine does not go nearly as quickly or nearly as smoothly as reports indicate Vladimir Putin expected it to go, the concern grows that maybe Vladimir Putin would bring out the nuclear weapons. Now, when we talk about nuclear weapons, this can mean a lot of different things. And I think some people imagine, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. That's not actually what's being considered here based on what Russia has. And we're going to talk about that. But that's actually not necessarily a good thing, and I'll explain that in a moment. An interesting article from Defense One: concern rising that Putin could use nuclear weapons. Russian escalate to de-escalate doctrine suggests Putin is thinking the unthinkable. And Patrick Tucker, who's a technology editor, writes the world should take Russia's escalating nuclear threats very seriously. Senior intel officials told lawmakers Tuesday, noting they haven't yet seen clear indications that Putin would respond to the military setbacks in Ukraine with nukes. Putin sparked alarm among nuclear watchers last month when he ordered the nuclear forces put on a special regime of combat duty. And that speaking to lawmakers on Tuesday, Avril Haines, the director of the Office of the Director for National Intelligence, said the move was mostly signaling to keep NATO from intervening. However, not everyone is so convinced that these are merely empty nuclear threats. And then the question is, what does it mean? What would it mean if Russia actually nuked Ukraine? Well, there's a lot of discussion of that. And there's an article on heritage.org that, yes, it's the Heritage Foundation. It's an accurate piece. Russia's small nukes are a big problem. And it explains Russia has a 10-to-1 advantage over the U.S. in non-strategic, low-yield nuclear weapons, what are sometimes called tactical or battlefield nukes. And this is actually an area of concern. There are some who are hearing about this and saying, well, it's good that Russia doesn't actually have or would not use the big nukes here. But the way in which it could be a strategic disadvantage is because Russia has those battlefield or tactical nukes and NATO has a much smaller supply of those. Putin knows NATO can't really respond with those particular types of nukes. And this, the concern is, could actually be a signal to Putin. If I do this, they're not going to drop like the big boy on Russia. So therefore, it might be an opportunity to use these types of nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear weapons. And there's a lot that you can read about these. These are, again, sometimes called non-strategic or sometimes called tactical nuclear weapons. And these are designed to be used on the battlefield with friendly forces in proximity in contested areas. When we think about Hiroshima, Nagasaki, we're talking about bombs of such potential to devastate that these are dropped when your forces are nowhere nearby with sort of wholesale disregard for the devastation that they're going to cause. The type that is being discussed here when we say Putin might use nukes, we're talking about lower explosive power, and designed to be targeted much more specifically. Now, am I saying that it's of surgical precision? Of course not. Of course not. But the idea is it doesn't cause wholesale devastation and fallout like what we saw in Japan during World War II. So that's the concern. Concern is growing, and certainly, there's two sides to how to interpret this going much longer than Putin may have hoped or imagined it would go. On the one hand, there's, well, that's a good thing. Putin thought maybe they could take Ukraine in 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. It's not happening. They're being met with significantly more resistance in Ukraine. And this could demoralize and potentially get Putin to pull back. That's one side. That's the optimistic side. The other side of this, from a strategic standpoint, is, well, Putin expected it to go quickly, and it's not. So it's going to push him towards taking more drastic action. And that's where these tactical or non-strategic nuclear weapons could come in. Obviously, we hope that doesn't happen. And there really are no. I think the one additional thing I would say about it is there is a contingent that is saying, give me a break. Putin, nukes,
nuclear proliferation.
Not going to happen. But these are the same people who said Putin massing troops at the border, that's not happening. Well, yes, it is. Here's the satellite imagery. Putin about to invade the Donetsk and Luhansk, not going to happen. And then Putin does. Putin going to push further into Ukraine, it's not going to happen. And then Russian troops do. A lot of the same people saying there is no nuclear threat from Putin are the same people who said he's not massing troops at the border. He's not going to cross the border. He's not going to cross further over the border. And all of those things happen. So I wouldn't pay particular attention to those people.